I mean, it's a lot to take in, but I think that great films are meant to humble us to the point where we can actually have these sorts of dialogues to begin with.
Being so immersed in this project and this pivotal moment in history, like what your kind of takeaway was and kind of your mindset coming out of it.
Context is so critical. The timing of the Manhattan Project, the need for it, the deployment of it, necessary or not, you can read plenty of data that would support either. But regardless, the why can be debated, but the here we are now is that's the cold hard truth. So being able to under Chris Nolan's direction, kind of invite the audience to be involved in this meditation. It's kind of, we all know the films over the last 50 years that have kind of been important in that way, as well as entertaining and thrilling and kind of just cool to watch. And I guess that's the transcendent thing about certain films, And so I got to be in one. Yay.
Yeah, and it is interesting because it does touch on it's forcing you to think philosophically, but also it's like just a really interesting and entertaining movie, which I think is very impressive given that it's just a lot of men talking for the better part of 3 hours.
I know. Yes, apologies. And there's something about that too. Maybe if more men were listening to each other as opposed to having these petty arguments and infighting and trying to get each other destroyed, we'd have more space for a larger dialogue. Then again, I think one of the things about Nolan in particular now that is evident, which is big scale, big impact, thrilling cinema. But there's this exploration of the subtleties of all of us, just our frailties and our defects and all these things that are really difficult to describe. And he kind of painted this picture that's historic and very personal and also just kind of shocking in a cool way.
Did you guys have conversations about the sort of the objective versus subjective? Because it's interesting, to even think to put the objective parts in.
Right. Yeah, and the way Chris wrote it was meant to be, as often as not, Oppenheimer's subjective experience. So that was, I think, one of the great genius decisions he made, is by doing that, he puts us all in the position of someone who's just a human being, but they have a certain skill set, and it needs to be brought to perhaps the verge of extinction to supposedly save us from another extinction. And it's just, it's just incredible that we've ever even been in a place where, as a species, we had to make these kinds of decisions because of technology.
And to go back to the men talking, it was funny because obviously the nature of when this took place, it necessitates there's not going to be a lot of women sort of in these conversations. But it felt not that it felt more deliberate than that.
Yes.
Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I was curious if you took away any commentary on patriarchy and war.
Men start wars, and the entire planet should be a matriarchy. But I've never changed position on that.
So you already had that going into this.
Well, this is just a triple confirmation.
This is obviously talking about a moment in history, a very specific moment in history. Do you feel like there's parallels that we're seeing now at all, or did you, as you're reflecting on them, was there anything that you were kind of seeing politically?
Yeah, of course. I mean, I think that, that mid-century Red Scare has now kind of splintered into a million sets of everything is another. But again, I think that's the influence of the information age. Mm-hmm. And while we claim we're in the information age, we're still in the atomic age because we still haven't figured it out. And it's arguable that we're less safe now than we were during the height of the Cold War. So, I mean, it's a lot to take in, but I think that great films are meant to humble us to the point where we can actually have these sorts of dialogues to begin with.
Do you think we'll figure it out? You seem like an optimist.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and as usual, just in time to not F it all up.